Have you ever second-guessed your parenting? Do you listen to critics and allow them to discourage you? Have you responded to criticism and it didn't go well? If you're an adoptive parent, you probably felt this. The second-guessing, the criticism, and the weight of wondering if you're getting it all wrong. Sometimes those comments don't just bounce off. They stick. They cut deep. How do I know? Because I've been there too. Hi, neighbor. I'm here to tell you, don't beat yourself up. In this episode, I'll share with you 3 anchor points adoptive parents can hold on to in order to navigate these kinds of challenges in their parenting journeys. Hope and healing are on the way. Did you finally realize your dream of having a family, only to have your happily ever after turn into something you never expected? Does your home sometimes feel unsafe? Do you lie awake at night second-guessing everything you're doing as a parent? If these questions feel uncomfortably close to home, take a breath. You're not alone, and there is a path forward. Hi, neighbor. I'm Tim Maudlin, and welcome to Adoption Struggles and Support, a podcast for Christian adoptive parents whose homes sometimes feel chaotic, overwhelming, or even unsafe. In this podcast, I share biblical encouragement for adoptive parents seeking safe and peaceful homes. Anchors of hope and healing are on the way. Before I get into today's topic, I want to share a review from one of our listeners. Grace writes, "Real, raw, and refreshing. I absolutely love how real, raw, and authentic this podcast is, especially around hard and complicated situations. It's refreshing how Tim shares his personal experiences and struggles about himself and his family, as well as insightful wisdom and tips learned from them. So many gems for navigating life regardless of your situation or life stage." Thank you so much, Grace. I really appreciate that review. One of the reasons this podcast ranks where it does is because listeners like Grace have left reviews for the show. This anchors the podcast in the rankings. You too can be an anchor of encouragement for other adoptive parents who are searching for answers in their parenting journeys. Please leave a review for the show. It's simple and will only take a few minutes. In the show notes, there's a link to a video that shows just how easy it is to do. Thank you so much. Have you ever second-guessed your parenting? Do you listen to critics and allow them to discourage you? Have you responded to criticism and it didn't go well? Don't beat yourself up. I've mentioned in other episodes how people told us things like, "You're too strict, you're too lenient, you don't know what you're doing as a parent, and you're failing your kids." The story I'm going to share with you today is real, raw, and authentic, and it cuts just as deep. There was a day when my son was acting up. It was negative behavior, and a person who saw this said to me, "I was embarrassed for you. You don't see my kids acting that way." I knew there was something deeper going on with my son, but I couldn't put my finger on it. It wasn't until a few years later that I learned about adoption trauma. I came to understand in trauma situations, negative behaviors are in direct proportion to the pain a child is in. Now, before I continue, I'm not going to attribute all negative behavior to adoption trauma, but some negative behaviors definitely are. It's easy to assume negative behaviors are a result of bad parenting, or the child is simply a bad apple. That's not fair to the parents or the child. Comments like the ones I've mentioned cut deep. I think a lot of comments like these are made without an understanding of the situation. I know in our case, my wife and I were always looking for advice. We had people in our home for extended periods of time. We would ask them things like, "What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What could we do differently? We sought out other parents who were further along in their parenting roles, people we respected. And ultimately, we were practicing what I read in Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6. Direct your children onto the right path, and when they are older, they will not leave it. I knew we were doing the best we could. I don't know about you, but I'm my own worst critic. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? So how do adoptive parents navigate challenges like these? Today I have 3 anchor points for you to consider. The first 2 are based on time-tested principles from Scripture. Anchor point number 1, you are not a perfect parent, and God never asked you to be. Listen to what the Hebrew writer says in chapter 12 and verse 10. For our earthly fathers disciplined us for a few years, doing what the best they knew how. But God's discipline is always good for us so that we might share in His holiness. One of the takeaways from this is parents do the best they can, but there's only one perfect parent, and that's our Father in heaven. People who don't understand the adoption journey are often more than willing to criticize your parenting. There's a difference between criticism and constructive criticism. I'm all for constructive criticism. I know I need it. I know I've sought it out. I just wish people would be more kind. I wish they would keep their comments to themselves. And I wish they would try to understand the nuances of adoption trauma. Some will, most won't. So what do you do about that? Well, that takes me to anchor point number 2. When criticism hits, choose grace over reaction. This is the second time-tested principle from Scripture. Luke chapter 6 and verse 31, the golden rule. Do to others as you would like them to do to you. Over time, I've tried to show grace to those who have said things without understanding the dynamics of the situation. People who don't understand adoption trauma. It doesn't mean their negative comments hurt any less. Even mentioning this story to you brings up raw emotions for me. I have a bonus verse I want to share with regard to this anchor point. It comes from 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 23. Speaking about Jesus, Peter said, He did not retaliate when he was insulted, nor threaten revenge when he suffered. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not equating what I've gone through with the adoption journey anywhere near what Jesus went through. But I know we can learn from him. He did not retaliate when he was insulted. As I've said, these comments directed to me and my wife, they cut deep. But it doesn't do us any good to retaliate. Reacting in anger doesn't bring peace into our home. It just adds more noise to an already hard situation. Jesus didn't retaliate when he was insulted. And while that's not easy, it shows us that we can feel the hurt without letting it control us and control how we respond. And finally, anchor point number 3. You need to establish healthy boundaries in order to protect your peace. Not everyone gets a voice in your life. If someone isn't willing to understand adoption trauma, if they criticize but never support, they do not get a front row seat in your home. You're already carrying enough. You don't need extra voices adding guilt and shame. Instead, surround yourself with people who understand, with people who will speak truth, but also speak life, because you were never meant to carry this alone. If you need help finding people to surround yourself with, I have a couple of suggestions for you. To date, there are over 200 episodes with myself and others who get adoption trauma. You can listen to those episodes and get the encouragement you need. And then there's also my community with like-minded individuals, other adoptive parents, and people who are supporting adoptive parents. You can find the link in the show notes to that group. Let's get to your daily doable. I didn't get to this point overnight. It's a process. You have to learn how to process your emotions, learn how to process the hurt, all the while trying to navigate the storms you're in. It's not easy, but it's doable. So the next time these words echo in your mind, you're too strict, you're too lenient, you're failing your kids, or when you doubt yourself, I want you to replace them with this truth. I am doing the best I can with what I know, and God is still working in my family. I would encourage you to journal verses like Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 10 and Luke chapter 6 and verse 31. Sit with the text. Let it speak to you. Your home may not feel peaceful right now, but that doesn't mean peace isn't coming. So stop beating yourself up. You're in a hard story, but God is not done writing it. That's all for this episode. I want to thank you so much for joining me. It's my prayer and hope that these verses and these anchor points will encourage you in your parenting journey. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now. I hope today's episode encouraged you to face the storms in your parenting journey with courage and confidence. If it did, please share this episode with one adoptive parent who might need the same encouragement today. And if you haven't already, a quick review on Apple Podcasts helps more adoptive parents find the show. Until next time, this is Tim, encouraging you to do what you can now.